Hello and welcome to DDOCast episode 597, recorded live on Sunday, April 26th. I'm your host, Patrick. With me this week, we have returning to the show, Nimvind.
Happy Nimbus.
Welcome back, sir. We have this week's screenshot. Quistalon and Joseph the Mini Scarecrow watch airship sail by in Sharn in the 460th screenshot of the week. Thanks, Quistalon, for sending in this week's screenshot. Yeah, a nice little feature of Joseph. I still don't have that one.
It's my favorite. I named mine Larry after a rant.
Oh, yeah? All right. I'll probably get it one day. Although, knowing my luck, it'll happen on a server that I don't play on to start with. So. Because I've already gotten a few horses on... which of course are bound to character too, so I can't even transfer them. But oh well. I'm not a huge cosmetic guy, so I'm not super concerned about it. I have a bunch of pets, but I just kind of take whatever comes along the way. I don't seek them out too much. We like to talk about Dungeons and Dragons online nearly every weekend. You can catch us through Twitch, YouTube, the DDO forums, iTunes, or from our website at DDOCast.com. DDOCast is hosted by Cyber Ears, the awesome podcast hosting network, and shows are usually available within a few days of recording. Next show will probably be next weekend, and you can stay updated by following us on our social media pages. At DDOCast on Twitter is the best, or our website, DDOCast.com, with our calendar. On the podcast this week, we've got a couple fun things. We took a week off because there was no news last week to really speak of other than the Chronicle. So we got two Chronicles to get through. We'll talk about some community news that happened. We're also going to do a preview of the Feywild. So we did this. We've done this for a couple of the big kind of expansion-y, not just expansion, but notable lore things. So we did it with Keep on the Borderlands and Assault on the Slave Lords, Temple of Elemental Evil, kind of stuff. And Nimvind is going to be our lore expert and kind of give us a rundown of what is the Feywild for those of us who have no idea what this is and have no idea what to expect other than unicorns and fantasy type stuff that we maybe saw in a couple of images or videos that SSG has revealed to us so far. So I'm looking forward to that. I think that'll be a lot of fun. Yeah, anything else you want to kind of say as a primer on that, or should we just jump into game news?
I mean, there's a lot to cover. Not a lot. I think I can get it done in the time parameters, but you're gonna be really fascinated when you hear a lot about the Feywild.
Or really bored, depending on how much you're interested in lore stuff. But, I think
everyone loves lore. That's why there's a history channel. Everyone loves listening about this stuff.
Here's the thing about lore for me. I find it interesting. As a DM, I find it cumbersome because if you incorporate it, right, and then try, like, the more you incorporate the lore that's given, the more stuff you have to remember to keep in mind and keep in there. And if you're making this kind of world expanding game, it gets cumbersome, I find, and troublesome. And well, that's not how this lore works. Like, okay, well, I need it to work this way, so it does today, or something like that.
Well, with the Feywild, you could easily say it does in this particular spot.
Yeah, I've taken the approach of if you watch our D&D night stuff, I translated, or I'm kind of translating DDO to 5th edition in Fantasy Grounds. Nimvind has been one of the players in that. We've done some of the Korthos Islands quests. It's slower, a lot slower, but it's been a lot of fun. But kind of my framework for it is, what world are we in? You're in an Eberron-like world. Well, what does that mean? Well, basically it means you're in Eberron unless I choose something or don't know something and do something different. That's my strategy when it comes to lore. So, there's a lot to it. Could be a lot of fun though. We'll get into that. For now, hey, let's get into game news. We have some because we got an update among some other things. There's also we're going to start with a little tidbit that Linabel kind of threw out into the forum world, which people were asking about kind of different aspects. Her comment was, speaking of random loot and dual slots, as in dual augment slots. So these would be items that have 2 augment slots on them, which we haven't had for a while. She says, well, stay tuned for an upcoming patch. So it looks like they're coming back, which sounds fun, right? We like 2 slot.
I like that, but this also does this mean that they're working on augments? Because that'd be awesome.
Please, yes, please. Is there anything in the game that's more overdue at this point? I mean, besides the quote lag silver bullet fix, which is never going to happen. I mean, updating augments and making the system more useful and more integrated into the system that we have, and getting the numbers to kind of line up with where they are in random loot gen. Because other than a few, the rubies are all kind of fine, whatever. But like a bunch of the other things you can slot in, the numbers just don't line up with what you can get on live. I think like the striding 30% augment is like minimum level 20. If I remember right, like that doesn't work. You can get striding 30% way earlier than that.
Way early. You can craft it way earlier, I think.
Yeah. I mean, I've got it on minimum level 10 gear, random loot gen gear. So, also, can I just say like a jewel kit destroyer, right? Like just something that you can drop in to just destroy the augment in there instead of like having to pull it out, that you can buy from the vendors like you can a sentient gem destroyer. I mean, I would really love to get one of those. So, really help with those items that you pull. It's like, hey, this could be sentient gem food, except for this augment that I don't want anyways. Like, I'm not going to use that. All right, Update 46 was released on Thursday, April 23rd. A little bit later in the week than they normally do, but we got it in this week. So, of special note, the Lost Gatekeepers. It's a new adventure pack. The Gatekeepers have established a new grove outside Stormreach, and some of the recently recruited initiates have gone missing. Throughout the 5 quests, clues will be found and followed to help rescue these would-be guardians of Eberron. The Lost Gatekeepers quest pack is level 3 on Heroic and level 32 on Legendary. You can find this in the Gatekeepers Grove, which is located in the harbor in Eberron. It's over by the Cerulean Hills. If you're familiar with where you zone in from Korthos, the lighthouse, and then there's kind of a dock path over to Cerulean Hills. It's right off of that path, that dock. It unfortunately doesn't really have a teleport. There's not really a teleport to option, which is a little annoying.
I mean, there kind of is and kind of isn't. Because remember when the quests were in Halls of Heroes, and you can use the Menace of Multitude to teleport quest givers to teleport. I think they now divert you to that place. So there's at least a teleport in the 12, Cannith, and the harbor.
Mm-hmm. But I don't always spend my time there. It'd be nice to get there a little easier, because a lot of that stuff was in the Hall of Heroes. Like the Slave Lords, White Plume Mountain, and what was the other one? Temple of Elemental Evil, right? We're all in the Hall of Heroes, which was a nice place to, you could airship into, or you could teleport into from the teleporty things. I don't remember what they're called. But now you have to go through the harbor to do that, which doesn't have a teleport option for the teleport. I think it's extra zoning, which is kind of a little bit annoying, I think. So, have you run the new quests?
I don't know if my connection's good right now. Am I coming in clear?
Yeah, you're good.
All right. Yeah, I ran it. I ran it in her. Like, I usually, when some new content comes out, I either run it on with Voodoo on Legendary R10 or whatever, or I ran second on Heroic until I got the routes down. So I've ran it. I've ran them. I really like them. I really like that they have a story, because like I'm a person that likes quest quality, and I like a little story. I like to like feel like I'm here for a reason.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I ran through them the
It's good.
once, and didn't really sniff the roses per se very much, if at all. Uh, they're short. You can get through them pretty quick. Uh, but they were enjoyable and fine. Ravens are kind of a pain. They seem to be mostly a reskinned bat, which is a
Yeah.
little bit annoying. Just because they're kind of hard. They don't stand still enough to hit very reliably, which is kind of annoying. The quest in the hut was interesting. I did kind of enjoy the. It's trippy, we'll say. It has a very different experience than I think what we're generally used to, which was kind of interesting. So, uh,
And there's a lore reason behind that.
we'll get into that later. The rest of the release notes. For druids, Ghost Pack will no longer make players in wolf form untargetable to other players. That's good. We knew this was coming. Paladins no longer gain the benefits of the Tier 4 Vigor of Life without training the enhancement first. Righteous Command now requires level 2 Paladin spell components. Okay. Spell components are kind of one of those weird things in the game. Like, they're just kind of a tedious thing to manage and seem to serve no real purpose other than to create an artificial inventory burden on casters. I think in theory it kind of makes it comparable to like maybe how much a fighter or a melee or martial character like might have a lot of weapons. A caster kind of tends to have fewer weapons. At least my experience, I don't need as many weapons or variety of things. Not to say they don't carry a bunch, but like that's the only purpose that they seem to make is components take up inventory space.
And only for 2 spell points more, you can take like, and if you have the room to take it, a shoe or SKU material components,
Yeah.
meta magic, it's only 2 spell points. So it's almost like, why have them in the game? Why not just assume we all have this feat? I don't know. In 5th edition, they for unless it has a unique material component, you could just have a spellcasting focus or a component pouch, and you're like, you're good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Let's see. Sanctified Vial now works with the described level prerequisites. Divine characters with Beloved of the Divine and Willing exotic favored weapon were getting +3 to hit and damage when they should have been gotten +1. Dope. Characters with Beloved of the Divine and Willing a simple favored weapon were getting +1 to hit and damage when they should have been getting +3. That's been corrected. It seems like they had that switched. Sinister Chill now applies more reliably on poison spells. I don't know what that is off the top of my head. I'm assuming that's an alchemist enhancement.
Sinister Chill is an orb from Sharn that usually before worked with just like, it was like a Pillmaster thing. It worked with cold and nullification spells or negative energy, but then also nullification also covered poison.
Right. Let's see. They fix some typos. Two-handed swords and club mobile attack animations have been updated cosmetically to be more smooth and impactful. No changes to speed, timing, or hitbox have been made. I will take this moment again to say that the new two-handed fighting styles look really spiffy.
Yeah, I do. I feel like I'm in some kind of like super action-packed anime when I fight now.
Sandstorm glasses and Bracer of the Demon's Consort no longer drop with the wrong mystic boost or mythic boost. They were getting the wrong ones. Sentient XP stones are now able to be looted from chests more reliably and less likely to get stuck in your inventory. Sort of. You currently can't use the. I don't know if it applies to the other ones, but the 1,000 XP sentient stones or whatever, you can't use those currently. They don't go into the sentient weapon at the moment, unfortunately.
Really?
Yeah.
I hadn't had one in a while, so it's like, whoa.
I actually pulled one and verified that it did not work this week. So, yeah,
Oops.
they'll fix it. Just hang on to it. But yeah, the less likely to get stuck in your inventory may be not be true in a different way now. So unintended consequences. Deprecated items will now automatically be cleaned out of bags. So what does this mean? There were some questions. Deprecated items refer to bits of broken code that get caught in players' bags. They'll appear as string table error and are otherwise unable to be removed unless they intervene. But with this patch, they should be able to clean themselves up, freeing up bag space from those invisible, frustrating bugs. Also, it was a way to do it that doesn't involve a GM every time you need to have it happen. So.
Oh, I was hoping that means like all those like melted chocolates in my pocket from last Mega Bar would go away.
No. Alas, no. That's their, and some people actually said, please don't take these away from me. I like them. I keep them for posterity. Or for something. I don't know what they're keeping them for, but you do you. Let's see. Some items from Keep on the Borderlands have more appropriate material types. Cool. Panacea and Angel's Tear portions now properly remove stat damage. Convenient. Values that display for quality and insightful sheltering items have been corrected for accuracy. I'm not sure if that means I went up or down. Ice Flensers no longer spam Ice Storm as often when not engaged in melee, and their Ice Spike Slippery effect has a smaller radius and better client performance. Ice Spikes now also scale their damage with monster level. We had a hotfix on Friday to further correct this issue, which I think we'll get into that later. I think I have that. Yeah, we do. So we'll talk about that when we start talking about bugs. Mummy Despair now has a functional DC game-wide and applies to all nearby creatures much more consistently. That's funny, because I remember that being a thing, and I think I just kind of forgot that they could do it, because I wasn't ever getting hit by it. That's probably why. We kind of touched on this. The majority of Gatekeeper NPCs have moved to the Gatekeeper's Grove. This includes the Favor NPC, the Schism Shard Collector, Temple of Elemental Evil, Tavern Brawl, the Slaver's Chain, White Plume Mountain, and some various teleport guys. Let's see. Slayer, Explorer, and Rare Quests for Cerulean Hills now have their CR set to the correct value for the landscape, 3. All epic XP rewards for Catacombs quests have been increased. That's good. They were pretty low. Epic XP from the Mystery of Delair's Tomb and Free Delair have also been increased. Great. The Orchard of the Macabre has had errors leading to client performance issues resolved. Did you play in the Orchard with the issues going?
Oh yeah, it was as bad as Thunderhome.
Yeah. It was brutal. You could still generally kind of move around a little bit better than I would say. It wasn't a lag lock, but it was just so rubber bandy and stuff wouldn't fire. Yeah.
Yeah, I've bit the lip and actually got my 7.5 in the lag, and it was doable. It was just miserable, and
Yeah.
I would have to refill the group after everyone left.
Yeah, I got 3,000 kills in the time it would normally take me to get 7,500 in there, so it was pretty nasty. Cordovan did say the issue with the Orchard, as he understands it, has to do with the age of that wilderness area and it being built slightly differently than most other wilderness areas, which has caused it to have been particularly impacted by a physics issue they are working to correct. I have not been in it since the patch, so hopefully it's better. Fixed a logic issue in Raven's Bane that may have prevented Baba Lysaga's hut from opening correctly in some cases. Yeah, that was annoying. It seemed to happen when more than one person would talk to a raven at the same time. That's kind of what I noticed. Korthos, they fixed an issue that sometimes caused players to not be informed they should enter the tavern after helping Baldar and Linus. Let's see. Korthos sacrifices. The underwater section has been adjusted to provide a function for the gates, levers, and doors that previously did nothing. I actually found that when I was doing research on translating that for D&D night. It's like, oh, what's this lever do? Nothing.
Yeah, that whole underwater. I wonder what they did. I need to go down there and see what they did.
Korthos Redemption, a waypoint to enter the final battle of the quest Redemption, has been added for when the barriers would normally prevent entry. That's good. That's for the end fight. See, Thrill Hunt, some erroneous cosmetic changes have been reverted. Searing Heights Wilderness area has received some landscape updates. Interesting. After a year-long identity crisis, the quest giver for bringing the light has remembered his name is, in fact, Brother Augustus. Is it bad that I didn't even realize that was a problem?
Yeah, I didn't know.
They also fixed some typos. A lot of typos fixed. Alchemist spellbooks are now retained on Lesser Reincarnation. Yeah, that's probably helpful. Hurl Through Hell now has its listed DC. I wonder if that went up or down. Didn't really.
Well, I remember not knowing the DC until I cast it. So, like, I think it just means that it lists it on the tooltip, like when you hover over it.
Mm-hmm. Let's see, some more typos. Stalwart Pact can once again be cast on allies. I didn't know that it couldn't. Divine Augmentation now applies more reliably to divine spells. Great. Several spells that are meant to target and heal undead can now do so. I have heard reports that this is not really true. It is still a work in progress. Righteous Command now scales its duration past its max caster level like other spells. Cool. The Inventory Details drop-down tab now properly displays the critical multiplier of your equipped weapons. Great. It's always helpful. Let's see. Several changes to issues believed to be contributing to client and server performance issues have been made. We're better than we were, I'll tell you that much. I feels like there's probably some more work that they can still do, but it's definitely a lot better than it was. Let's see.
They probably should look on Fiverr and find someone that can help.
The Death Watches You cosmetic should now properly display on all races. This one's funny. The half-orc and halfling wish for memories now properly describes themselves as opposed to each other.
Yeah, that's funny.
Little identity crisis. They fixed a problem with many secret...
little Chihuahua syndrome.
Yeah. They fixed a problem with many secret doors that made them too easy to spot. Their search DCs are not affected. These doors' spot DCs will now scale with level and difficulty as intended, and their spot DC values will be 5 below their search DCs. This bug only affects doors, not traps or control panels. On the note of traps and control panels, I was thinking about this running through hardcore. I kind of would like them to go in and tweak the danger sense. Because when you find a trap or a trap box, the little spot icon, the danger icon, goes away. And I kind of was noticing when I was playing in hardcore, there'd be someone running behind me that would have the auto search, and they'd find it, and I wouldn't really get that danger message, and I wouldn't recognize their danger, and I'd run into a trap. Which in hardcore is not desirable.
And that's an issue that I had in hardcore too, is that if multiple trappers are in a party, one trapper somehow got the jump on the other trappers, the other ones would be in the dark basically. And like I honestly, if you're playing pen and paper, if we really want to keep the DD and DDO, if a trapper finds a trap, unless he's like evil, which is not allowed in DDO, he would tell the party. Like the whole party should get a warning, like, "Hey, your trapper has found a danger."
I don't know. One of my pen and paper groups has a rogue who is not evil, but he's not exactly good either, and he would not tell the party if it was to his benefit. But he does a lot of crazy things like that. Let's see. An otherworldly hut has appeared in the Stormreach Harbor. That's with the Gatekeepers quest chain. It looks neat. I'll tell you that. It did not appear where I thought it was going to appear, though. It's over by where it's by Info's key and where the trainers are. So
there's no lore behind that. We'll get into that.
There's now a moving platform elevator from the docks in the Stormreach Harbor up the cliffside. Have you ridden it yet?
I actually streamed me being like, why is this here for like 5 minutes?
Right?
Because it's right there in the ramp. I'm like, I can climb up and down this ramp faster than this thing decides to start moving. Why is it here? And then I'm like, I don't know. It's just horrible. I guess it's for like new players that don't have Featherfall, maybe. But I'm like, take the ramp.
Take the ramp. What? I was expecting this platform to be like from somewhere farther away to like maybe from like the lighthouse to take you up to the top of that ramp or something like that. No, it's an alternative option for the ramp. I'm really curious as to why that's a thing.
I don't know. I bet you there's like some coding thing like, oh, if we don't put this platform, the whole harbor will unravel and there's bugs galore. No, or so I'm hoping. I really hope that's the answer because this is almost a waste of space.
You know, maybe there's some data that they have from hardcore that says a lot of players die going up that ramp from falling off it.
Yeah, maybe, but still, like, imagine you waiting 5 more seconds than going down the ramp just for that thing to come back up and be like, this will save my life.
Yeah. All right, some bug stuff. This came up this week on the forums. Wish for Memory's elf does not work when you're a drow. The issue with this is that for item racial restrictions, it is not currently possible to separate drow from elf or wood elf, as they are all considered elf by the item racial restriction property, and that property doesn't exist for drow. So, if you want a drow life or an elf life, don't be the other one. Drow and elf you won't be able to use a wish for memory for those two races, so you'll have to pick something else. Good to know. It doesn't sound like they're going to fix that anytime soon. Soul Splitter, the quest Soul Survivor has been temporarily closed while they investigate a bug. They'll let us know when the quest is once again available. Probably that's either an exploit or a world crashing bug for the one quest. So my sense is that it's probably the former. Ice Storm hotfix. Aha! So we had a hotfix on Friday. An abrupt one, as it was. I happened to be playing at the time, and the world message came out, hey, we're going to close the world in 50 minutes. Get out while you still can. We finished White Plume Mountain with about 3 minutes to spare. A lot of fun. So, Torque wrote that they found an issue with Ice Flenders casting the Ice Storm spell incorrectly. This mostly seems to occur with Ice Flender bosses, or when the Ice Flender is attempting to engage someone it cannot path to. They are working on getting out a fix. Please be advised to avoid Ice Flenders short term, or if you must engage them, do it at close quarters. Luckily, we didn't have to deal with that I think that post came out maybe an hour and a half before they closed the servers down, so it didn't last really long. There you go. There's update 46. Yeah, so far so good. I think. I think the quest stuff's decent. A couple of things that were a little rough around the edges. The healing stuff not working on Pale Masters. And I guess we should probably mention the brief period of time when they brought the servers up, and TR caches and shared bank were completely gone.
Oh man.
That scared a lot of people. I'm sure the devs were also equally scared. That would probably be a pretty solid game killer right there if they managed to delete all of that information. Luckily, they did not. It was just, as I understand it, it was a reference problem. Like, it couldn't view, the data was there, they just broke the referencing, so it couldn't find it. So, yay. Let's see. DDO bonus days, a plus 50% crafting XP boost now through April 26th. Have we had plus 50 before?
I don't recall 50.
Yeah, I don't either. 50 is pretty big. I know we've had like 25, 30 somewhere in that range, but I don't remember there ever being a 50% boost. That's a lot. So convenient because I recently moved a character to another server to play with someone I met on hardcore to kind of do some leveling and TRing. And I think on like Tuesday I was like, all right, I need to get some crafting going in here because like I moved a crafter from hardcore to that server, and then it was just kind of sitting there. Like, man, okay, I need an item at this level range. I can't make it yet. I need to do some leveling up. And I did a little bit, and I was like, I'm going to wait until a crafting XP boost comes. And lo and behold, it came this week at 50%, which was fantastic.
They don't come often.
Yeah, not often enough that I think you can really time them. But this one for me was particularly convenient, other than the fact that my luck was particularly lousy as I was leveling up. Because, you know, if you're going to craft something that you have a 30% chance to craft, or actually a better example is, if you're going to craft something that has a 75% chance to craft, you would think it would not take 4 tries to craft it. But it did for me. So that was kind of how my luck ran in that.
That's like rolling a 1 3 times on a 4-sided dice.
Yeah, it's pretty much exactly that. It was remarkable how streaky my luck was, and so, you know, I couldn't get it to go the other way, right? Like I couldn't 6% chance, get it 3 times in a row. No, I couldn't do that. I could do it the other way, but not that way. So, you know. Also, I did not have enough. Those essences go pretty fast when you're just making shards. So, but I got up about 50 or 60 levels, I think. So that was pretty good. The stored sales for the week. You can store more loot. 30% off of character banks, shared banks, deposit box, and plat storage, and inventory space and bags now through April 30th. Good time to get some of that stuff if you're in the market for it. I should mention, so the weekly coupon for the week is an item of restoration oil. It's restore item. It's the coupon code, and all of that's through April 30th. Regarding the new pack, it is an adventure pack. It will be free to VIP and season pass holders. Everyone else will have to purchase the content. However, until April 30th, all content is free in DDO. So you will not find it in the store yet. And in fact, you can't buy content right now, which seems kind of weird, but I think that's just kind of how their system works. They can't give you access to the content and let you buy it at the same time. I don't know why they can't figure that out, but they haven't. So I don't know how much it costs yet. And I didn't see any numbers on it. But in any case, if you just want it for, you just want to get the items out of it, you got a couple days to do that, and then you could never run it again. I think it was pretty solid Reaper XP, though. I think we ran it on R4 in like 25, 30 minutes, and that was only because we did the entirety of the hut quest. So, which probably I won't do in the future. But it was fun. I was enjoying it, so we did it all. There you go. Anything you want to say about update 46 quickly before we jump into community news?
I like what they did with it story wise, and I do appreciate that a lot of the quests are short because there's a level 3 side and then there's a legendary side, and the more short legendary Reaper XP I can get, the happier I am.
Might be a little too short. I was actually thinking about this. Like, it feels like they need to tweak the Reaper system just a little bit. I think the difficulty might not be where it needs to be anymore because a lot of people are running R10s a lot. Maybe it's there. I'm not sure, but there's a lot of people running R10s, and I kind of wonder if is the system's intent really being met at this point of challenging people at that level. Also, I kind of wonder if it's some of those shorter quests. Maybe we need another multiplier that's lower for like the really short quests if they're going to release a bunch of short quests like this. But
maybe I still feel like there's whether it's small or big or medium demographic out there that's having a hard time in Reaper. Yeah, granted there's
absolutely.
a lot of R10 groups now than it was before, but I still don't think the community as a whole and the new budding players are still there yet. But I think they have a good enough time to come back and review it again when every single person has wings. One last thing I want to say about this thing is that the one thing that I liked but also didn't like is that literally on in the Hut class they made maybe 1.5 lines referring to how they're gonna tie in the Feywild into Eberron, and I guess when we get to the Feywild I'll explain why it's bothersome but also kind of cool.
I get that. That's what I was kind of talking to at the top, right? Like that's the trap with getting into lore, right? Is you can have a lot of fun with lore, but there's also going to be people out there that's like, well, that's not the lore. You're messing up the lore. This doesn't follow the lore. Like,
well, it kind of did follow the lore, just like how when Loth came over and be like, "Hey, what's up?" There's it has to do a lot with the dragon shards, and you can mess with them with there's a whole University of Magic. I don't know if it's in Bree, um, but yeah, that studies this and has a gate to that they don't turn on because, like I said, if you turn it on, Asmodeus might pop out, and they don't even know about the evils of the other planes. But they know the evils of this plane really well. So like everyone's like, well, we got enough with what we have. No need to open up the multiverse.
Sure. All right. Well, let's jump into community news, shall we? So we got a couple chronicles to get to. Like I said, we took a week off. So we'll start with the 378th chronicle, which was 2 weeks ago. Matrim has put together an up-to-date character planner, including Alchemist. You can check out the latest DDO builder. There's a couple different programs that I know people use. I just gotta say, they do a really good job with those to allow you to really look into how to build a character kind of in virtual paper space. So they do a really good job with those. Gaming SF is a longtime DDO blogger who writes about life in DDO, so you can check that out. The guild for the week, the Wildcats, are a large and growing guild of active players on Orion and takes an all-officer approach to membership. The comment, what is the angriest monster? Halfling Barbarian?
I want to say Hezaru.
Hezaru, interesting.
Because like every time a Hezaru, like you see Hezarus are just standing around, and as soon as they get a whiff of you, they're like they're hulking out.
Sure. Loth is pretty angry. A lot of her dialogue is kind of, she's kind of mad.
I think she's more sassy though. Like she tries to hurt you with words as well with
Yeah,
goddess demoness powers.
sure. Let's see. Fansite news, we got a shout out for our Update 45 review, the conclusion of that. DDO Players News has the latest game news, info on game, and more. DDO Stream is your first shop for DDO. DDO PL, Brock and Friends, and Doug Glendower got shoutouts. Also on Twitch, Strim Tom, Samus, and Voodoo Spice all got shoutouts for that. Dirty William, Linvander, and MJ all got shoutouts on YouTube, and Mickey wrote about raids again. I think her blog is up to like 150 something raid weeks or something like that. So if you're interested in raiding or getting into raiding, that's a good place to go. Let's see. Up the 379th Chronicle, that's this week's Chronicle. Spotlights are Morningstar hosting a party this weekend to explain how crafting and level up fast. You can check out some details there. Get in touch with him or her for information on, hey, it's a great weekend to do it. 50% if you catch this before that ends. Massively OP's stream team recently delved into the Feywild Carnival, so you can check that out. The guild hall for the week is, if you're looking to raid on Orion, you can check out an Orion raid guild or Orion raid calendar channel. So if you're on Orion, you want to do some raiding, you can do that. Comment: what is the best way to not get lost? Well, since we don't have the divination spell, I would say, Bigby's hands are pretty nice. Although that only helps the people behind, not the leader.
DDO wiki maps.
Yes. I've actually started in some explorer areas. If I recognize that people are having trouble figuring out where to go, rather than wait for them to find the quest, I've actually started dropping Bigsby hands at the quest entrances. To kind of,
that's one of those things where I don't understand, because I notice a lot of people don't use their map in game, because I'm like, oh, just look at the door in your map. They're like, what? And I'm like, open up your map. There's like a giant white rectangle there. Click on it, and the white arrow will appear on your map, and follow the white arrow.
That works to a certain extent, right? But particularly in Sharn, sometimes there's some level things that you have to figure out how to navigate the terrain and stuff. Doesn't quite work that well. But I've got so many Bigby hands that I haven't been using. The only thing that I really have ever reliably used Bigby hands on is in card finding in Curse of Strahd. Other than that, I don't tend to use them. And can I say, for some reason, I have a lot of red ones. I've got over 200 red ones on at least 2 or 3 servers. Just from daily dice.
Red ones give you wings.
I get, like, I don't know what it, like, if I apparently mostly get red ones. Or something, like, I don't know. It's kind of weird. Let's see, Fansite news. We got a shout out for DDOCast. That's a group that I play with on Wednesdays. It's kind of a static group on twitch.tv/DDOcast. The Chronicle here says we play every other Wednesday. That's sort of true. It changes with the seasons. This was actually supposed to be an off season. We were supposed to be not playing right now because I was supposed to be umpiring baseball a lot. But because of COVID-19, I'm not umpiring baseball, unfortunately. So we're doing that instead. Mickey writes about the optional and total chaos. DDO Stream is your first stop to find DDO on Twitch. This week you can check out DDO PL. D&D Night went on a 3-hour tour. It was hosted by Cordovan. And Brighter Days Ahead tonight. We did some redecorating. Again, Shrimtom, Voodoo, and Samus got shoutouts on Twitch. On YouTube, you can check out recent videos by Kalith and the Longhouse, DW Punisher, and Ice Damon. So some fun stuff there. Also, I wanted to highlight another video that Voodoo put out. It was Kenneth crafting leveling in 30 minutes. And he put this out actually last week, so it's before the bonus this week. But if you're interested in getting up there in Kenneth crafting, and it is, I would tell you, it's a worthwhile endeavor to do if you have a server where you mostly play on, because you can fill out a lot of kind of random gear sets, both at high level, but also if you're going to be doing a lot of TRing or something like that, you can kind of get some stat items crafted that'll really kind of help you out. I'm a big fan of Constitution, of False Life, of Insightful Constitution belts while I'm leveling, or rings, depending on where your best slot is. That really helps. You can get true seeing at level 1 on goggles, so that's pretty nice. So, looked like you wanted to say something.
Yeah, no, I was like, I have 2 goggles, true seeing of underwater action level 1.
Interesting. Yeah, I haven't figured out what I'm gonna put on the. I'm as I've been becoming more and more into TRing, because historically I haven't done it a lot, but I found someone that makes it fun and at a fun pace, and makes it something that I can get through. Just doing it by myself was never something that was fun or worked well for me. So I've had to kind of fill out a few kind of pieces of gear at a couple different levels. So I have true. I'm working on making some true sight goggles finally, after like a long time of avoiding it. But I got to figure out what I'm going to put out. What else I want to put on that? Underwater action's an option. Although I never really find that to be a problem. It's very rare that if you know where you're going, drowning, I find, is I have to be really intentional about trying to drown.
I like it until level 8, and then I swap. Then I have true seeing on a trinket. But it's really nice because if you end up being the heavy armor paladin or cleric that doesn't have enough skill points to throw in for swim, there's some spots that get a little crazy. It's just something to have, so you never have to worry about it. You can go AFK in the water.
So you can just go get a bubble belt, although that doesn't work to higher levels. But yeah,
it's like level 1 to 8. Bada beam, bada boom. I have a master's gift in it. It's all good.
Yeah, it's a good way to do it. Let's see. D&D night on DDO stream. Don't forget to check that out Sundays at 7 p.m. Eastern. Tonight is Heroes of Battle Rise, which is Evil Beaker's campaign with myself and Drac and Cordova and all playing, and some other folks playing in that. We're currently working on Out of the Abyss storyline. I think we're kind of towards the end. Coming from someone who doesn't actually know the storyline and has never looked at the book or anything like that, it feels like we're near the end. Because if we're not in the middle of the end fight, then that scares me a little bit for what's coming next. You can check that out, twitch.tv/DDO stream. There's also other groups that do in there. Nimvind is on it a bunch on a couple different shows. I do D&D Kasplat and Stormreach Chronicles, and you know a little bit about this, but we're not really going to talk about it. But I got another project coming for that I'm working on that I think will be kind of a fun little filler series as well. So, yeah, that covers us for community news. I got a little bit of lightning post. Fuzzy Duck 81 wrote in. This is regarding update 45, our review on that. So regarding the range combat changes, yeah, it's a shame about IPS being less effective, but it doesn't feel too bad, really. Plus, the reasoning behind it and differentiating the benefits of the two styles more seems sound. However, looking at it from the other side as someone sticking with the single target approach, I've been releveling my Archer Ranger, whose primary tree is Deepwood Sniper, and combined with the other changes in that tree, adding attack speed multiplier and the amendment to Shot on the Run, adding a +1 multiplier with bows, wow, it has been a serious kick now, especially once you managed to build a few stacks of Archer's Focus, and frankly, he virtually never uses IPS anymore. It's interesting. I definitely still am using it. Just because, hey, if you're attacking more than one thing, it's almost... even if you're just attacking two things, a 20% loss of DPS is still more than... 80% is more than 100%. I guess is what I'm saying.
I'm wondering because like I'm the type of range bow person that's like, if I have a chance to do Arcane Archer, I would always do Arcane. I'm like trying to fathom Deepwood Sniper and how would that feel losing all the tier 5, right? And maybe it's not that
Well,
bad.
I've actually been in Deepwood Sniper for a long time. And the reasoning that I kind of came down to is Arcane. I'm in both, right? Like Arcane Art. I'm heavily invested in Arcane Archer and Deepwood Sniper. Like that is pretty much where all of the action points on that character are spent, is in those two trees. Having said that, I think the Arcane Archer obviously has the Slayer Arrow, which is a really big DPS bump. Deepwood Sniper, I find it feels like, I haven't ran the numbers, but it feels like Deepwood Sniper is a more even and actually more DPS. And the reason for that is kind of, I don't remember the exact where they all, but it's like more range power, same alacrity, I think is what it was. It's some kind of effect in that combination, right? And then when I looked at the numbers, other than Slayer Arrow, Deepwood Sniper clearly seemed the better tier 5 and capstone option. So the Slayer Arrow gives you a bigger burst damage. Deepwood Sniper, I think, actually ends up doing more, but it's spread out over a longer period of time, which also means it's more susceptible to things like DR and stuff like that. I don't know if that's actually true, but that's kind of how it's always felt to me, or at least for the last couple of years.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I guess you could get, like, as long as you spend like 31 points into Arcane Archer, you can probably get over a lot of that DR lump, right? Because that's what you
Yes.
need for all the DR breaking core. And then, like, I guess you don't need a lot of elemental arrows. You just need enough to make your force
Mostly just
damage
use the
on your
force one.
yeah. But the elemental damage upgrades, like if you choose acid and then choose improved acid and keep on improving it, that actually improves the force damage
Yes.
die.
Right.
So you need some, like at least one or two.
Oh yeah, no,
That'd be nice.
I've got those as high as I can get them with what I've got going on. But I don't know. That's kind of been my take on it, is that if you want the big high damage burst, Slayer Arrow and Arcane Archer is better. I think if you want more DPS over time, Deepwood Sniper is better. Because remember, Deepwood Sniper also increases your archer's focus by another 10% or another 10 stacks. So
I guess it's just an aesthetic, like me glancing over judgment, because like when I glance over Deepwood, I'm like, well, there's some stuff for melee and range, so I thought it was like a hybrid tree, and I'm like, you can't. I was like, you can't hybrid a class. You have to spec for one to the other, or it just becomes like lame in two things.
True. I used to carry two-handed swords on my archer, and then I realized, like, what am I doing? This is stupid. Just use a bow. But yeah, I don't know. I like Deepwood Sniper. Alchemist class, Fuzzyduck says he's been enjoying, though he agrees it's one that takes a little while to really get a handle on its playstyle. Mainly been running an Apothecary with Sideline and Vile Chemist so far. We'll be trying out Bombardier fairly soon. A few observations in no particular order. It's quite funny that the healing focus tree is also the one with very high DC insta-kill ability. Make sure to slot a plus heal skill item or augment, and a no-save method to make enemies vulnerable to being insta-killed. The version of Knock seems to be far more effective than the regular Knock spell. It is, and actually intentionally so, but without range, I think is what they said. Some people say the Poison Imbue is a lesser version of Eldritch Knight Imbue. Bear in mind, though, that it's very easy to make poison immune enemies suddenly not immune at all. The only other way to remove complete immunity to damage type pre-level 17 is limited to Tieflings, investing at least 16 points into their racial tree to get improved Scorch. Whereas from as low as level 2, an alchemist can potentially kill anything with their poisons. Yeah, that's a big difference. That's a really good point. Insidious Spores from Primal Avatar is, in their opinion, a must-have twist for an alchemist. It does great damage now that there's actually poison spell power available, particularly once you've got it stacked up a couple times and against things like Iron Golems. If you apply the poison vulnerability, it'll hit them with both the rust and poison damage portions. They have as many curative abilities as a full cleric once you get used to their casting style, and mass healing from earlier. They're even better than artificers in that regard. Which seems kind of weird, but there you go. Bear in mind that any spells are based on fortitude saves, so they'll be less effective against big fighter types. Evasion won't work against them and are great for targeting casters. The fact that they're mostly fortitude saves is a huge thing when it comes to DPS, because evasion and saves on monsters really kills that. And don't underestimate their crowd control abilities. Sleep Powder doesn't have a max hit die limits like the regular sleep spell, so it's more effective than you think. And Flash Freeze works on many things that Flesh to Gold doesn't work on. It's amazing for crowds of oozes and also works great against the little scarecrows in the Baba's Hut raid. There you go. Some great tips there, I think, for Alchemist. Still haven't played one. I'll get there eventually.
Oh, they're hot.
Yeah.
I played in every single tree, and they all have a cherry on top.
Foji wrote in as well. He said Divine Might changes are only a problem for two-headed fighting, which was addressed with defeats, and people who got a headache in fitting insightful deadly and now need to figure out insightful strength. But on the flip side, Divine Might now works even if, for instance, you want to do a Paladin Wisdom-based falconry, or something Dex-based having Paladin levels. Before this, Strength and Intelligence were the only real options. As for Inquisitive, he's been playing with one in his group since forever, and while still super strong, once my Rogue 18 Artificer 2 Great Crossbow build hit the Mechanist core, the last core, plus 2 to multiplier, the DPS is comparable, borderline the same. You get similar kills, get around the same amount of aggro with similar diversion. I think that's good, right? Like, that's where you want to be. You want builds that are doing comparable things to be comparable in power. Maybe have a little better here, a little less good there, kind of a thing, right? That's kind of, I think, the magic place to be, in those terms. So, all right, Mr. Nimvind, I think it's time to do our Feywild preview, which really, I mean, your Feywild preview. So we're gonna turn it over to you a little bit, and I think just start us off. Maybe give us the boilerplate. What is the Feywild, and what should players generally expect to experience in the Feywild?
Well, Feywild was introduced in 4th edition D&D, and generally how it was described there, and in 5th edition, is that when the Forgotten Realms planet was made, the gods took all the things that were kind of dull and dark and put it aside, and everything that was really too colorful and too light and put it on their side, and they congealed into their own mirror reflections of the prime material plane. And of course, the colorful light side is the Feywild, and it's a complete mirror. It even has its own Fey Underdark. It has and when I say it's a mirror, it's a complete mirror. So like if there's a mountain there on the Feywild, there will be a mountain too, maybe with more crystals, as the rocks are more colorful and crystalline and all that, or stuff. So generally the Feywild is kind of like a more colorful light. Even its dark side is even more vibrant than our side, but it's a reflection of vast and strong emotion and color.
And we have experience with this, right? Because you're talking about the dark, setting aside the dark side. That's the Shadowfell, if I understand correctly.
Yeah, the Shadowfell is dark and dull and actually devoid of emotion. That's actually something that Shatterkai have. They actually don't have emotions. They're just very dull, and everything's kind of like in shades of gray.
Right.
And you know, and then on the Feywild, everything's freaking bipolar. Like, yeah, when they're angry, they're super angry. And the elves of Faerun or Toril, wherever, Forgotten Realms, they originated from here, but some of them stayed during the Great Elf War that made the Drow. Right? Some of them are like, oh, we're Eladrin now, y'all elves. So it's interesting, but remember, DDO's main setting is Eberron, right? Where Zendrick starting to get into Corvair and all that. Um, so they have their version called Thelanis, and typically in Eberron there is when it was created, there was giant Shiverous dragon shard ring around it, just floating around it, that actually protects it from all the multiverse. So that means, like, you're in you're in Forgotten Realms. To get in it there, you actually have to have someone in Eberron to mess with this to open up a gate. This happened one time in Eberron when Lolth contacted the Spinner of Shadows to collect dragon shards to weaken the barrier through a ritual. Now there's a hut in the harbor with hags making a ritual to also weaken there to get a backdoor to the Feywild, which is very interesting. That they didn't really have that many dragon shards in their place. And it's also interesting that there's a hut in the part of the harbor where technically, if there was no cement or wood, you would be in the water, because Forgotten Realms, the Feywild, is an exact replica, except just more colorful and more vibrant, of the prime material. So technically, unless an Eladrin made a place there, because Eladrin are the only people, besides some Archfey, that make places, and most of the people are just like wild, crazy. They're unrelenting. Like a typical fairy place is just a bunch of naked party animals. All they do is party and play there. And when they get mad, they get really mad. When they get sad, they get really sad. Their emotions drive everything. So the only people that really have a society there are Eladrin, who are the elves that decide to stay, and some Archfey, which made the silly and unsilly court. Of course, there's other Archfey that a lot of warlocks make pacts with. There's Walkarth of the Infinite Branches, Lorith, the Unicorn Queen. There's a bunch of those. Those are the Fey that warlocks actually make pacts with. But they're very isolated and devoted to becoming deities. You can almost actually see these individuals as kind of like the opposite of demons. They're chaotic good, or chaotic. They're the opposite side of the chaos spectrum, as the demons are more of the evil side. They both have a weakness to cold iron, even to tie more in. So
it does seem kind of weird that they put the hut in the harbor as from a I guess quest perspective. If the hags were trying to do this ritual, why did they put it in the middle of this populated harbor, as opposed to having a hut like in the Cerulean Hills in a corner where they wouldn't be disturbed?
Yeah, well, I think, I don't know if they specifically said what kind of hags they are, but like they look like green hags, and I don't know, it makes negative sense. This is Zero, and it just went that way.
Yeah,
but
I mean, I think it's more. I think that decision was maybe more of a marketing decision. Like, hey, look at this cool looking hut. I mean, it looks cool. It looks great.
Yeah, it looks beautiful. Which is also kind of funny, considering that like some of the harbor is made from 2006. So you have like 2006 like design, and then all of a sudden you have like 2020 right next to it. You're like, whoa, why did it go 2D to 4D?
It's true. I think that's why it's there. It's the marketing thing, right? Like, hey, look at this shiny hut. Feywild's coming. Don't want to miss this.
Hey, you $130. No,
I mean, probably. I would assume the price points are going to be the same, but
Yeah, so the interesting thing about is that it literally is supposed to be a mirror thing, but its creation is as a fifth edition or fourth edition, which is when it came around, is pretty tied to Forgotten Realms.
right.
So it's like, for instance, if we enter it from Eberron, then it would probably just look like Evening Star to us, unless they're going to give us a new map, which it sounds like it, right? So it shouldn't look like a Faith Zendrick, because Eberron has Thelanis. And you know what's even sadder is that they mentioned the Talenta Plains. And the Talenta Plains actually has a problem because it's very coterminous. It
Coterminous?
gets that word with Dolur and Thelanis. So literally, if they wanted a Fey expansion, all they had to do is take us to Talenta Plains, which would have led to Isle of Dread because of dinosaurs, right? And a possibility to go to Dolur and Thelanis, but they didn't.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see kind of where it all goes and how exactly it ties in. But so you've kind of touched a little bit on it, but what can maybe players expect to their experience to be like in the Feywild?
Well, there's a lot of dangers, innocent and aggressive there. There is a race that now inhabits the Underdark of Feywild called the Fomorians. They're magical giants that refuse to leave the Feywild because then they will lose their magic. But they used to be extremely beautiful until they almost took over the Feywild, and all the Fey creatures united, cursed them of ugliness, and sent them to the Underdark. So you can probably expect a new giant there, the Fomorians. Another thing is that you never ever say yes to a Fey. A Fey may ask you for a dance, right? Like something simple as a dance or to get some butter, right? That dance might last for 50 years because time doesn't work the same way in the Feywild. A minute there could be 10,000 years here, or even 100 years there, or you might have went back in time by the time you get to the prime material plane again. So they could ask you to dance, and you might die dancing. They might like, hey, go to my neighbor's shelf and get butter. You open their neighbor's door, and it's a huge, um, under dark mountain, cavernous, subterranean dungeon, and the shelf is actually a Tarrasque. You know what I mean? Like you never know in the Feywild. So simply saying something like, "Yeah, I'll go get your mail," will put you into a pact with a Fey. And if you try to not do it, you get cursed and pranked for the rest of your life. And if you do it, it's a prank.
So politely decline everything.
Oh yeah, or just don't open your mouth, just run.
Sounds like this is not a safe place that we should be going.
Well, it's not safe because we're mortal. A lot of the things there are immortal. So the idea of like, yeah, let's dance for 100,000 years. That's cool. That, you know what I mean? Like if you're immortal, that's a blimp in your history. Um, I mentioned the Eladrin, right? Well, the Eladrin are basically elves that stayed in the Feywild. There's actually a lot of immortal races, and one of them is called the Lachey. These are the albino elven creators, the original elves. They have really dark eyes and they're really pale, and they're just immortal. They're immortal. The Arc Fae are immortal. Most of the Fae are immortal. Fomorians are basically former rulers of Feywild. There's a lot of dangerous people who their mundane tasks are way too much for our bodies. So something as simple as, hey, go down the street might take generations of your family to complete.
Oof. Anything else you want to say about Feywild to give folks a primer of what it is and how it might fit?
Well, I think I pretty much said it all. Time works weird there. It overlays the prime material plane. The Fae, they party to the point where it will break your body. Fomorian giants, magical giants, arc phase, um, and just really beautiful colors and shades, and a lot of light. So expect all that. I mean, expect it if they go off the lore. In a Dungeons and Dragons game, remember the DM has the final setting, whether he wants the Dungeons and Dragons official lore or if he wants to make their version. SSG is probably going to do their best to give us a really good experience, and I'm really excited about this.
Yeah, they had some pictures of a castle and a unicorn at PAX East that they shared that looked pretty cool. I think they're really kind of leaning in towards the fantastical elements of the area, kind of a more of a
Yeah.
fantasy vibe than we've ever really had.
Well, that's another thing is like, if you really think of how I described it, it's a lot like Jack and the Beanstalk. You're literally entering a world where Jack and the Beanstalk, Jack the Giant Slayer, um, the old grandma with in the shoe. You know what I mean? Like you're entering a land where these stories is completely logical and commonplace. Like, hey, there's this woman that lives in a giant shoe, or there's a grandma that in a candy house eating kids. Are like, oh yeah, that's like an everyday thing here. Like that, what are you talking about? I ate a child last week, like, and you're like, whoa, you're a leprechaun. You're like, so YOLO, you only live once for eternity once. You know, um, and I think I don't I think I touched about this, but typically in the Feywild, because of how immortal creatures are, typically only like things like the Eladrin and the Silly and Unsilly court tend to make buildings there, right? Because like there's no need if you don't get sick, if you don't really die, unless you get murdered, and then even then that's a joke. You know what I mean? Because that's just the Feywild. You're like, haha, I died. Yeah, so when they showed the castle, and you're like, is this an Eladrin stronghold? Is this the silly court? Is this the unsilly court? And that kind of leads into another thing. What is the silly and unsilly court, right? It's when you first hear of the silly and unsilly court, uh, you get an explanation like, oh, the unsilly court is led by some emo prince, right, and a bunch of other fae that are kind of lean to the more darker side of the Feywild, and then the silly court's led by this beautiful queen and her husband, kind of husband, and a leprechaun bard and all this stuff. And you're like, oh, these are good and bad guys. No, they're both gonna could they're just two different organizations really, if you think about it, because you can work with both for good and or bad. They're just different shades of chaos. So and both of them can equally kill you. That's the thing about the Feywild, is that there's the concept of good and evil only comes in play in very, very small areas of the place. It's really just chaos and emotion. It is the physical embodiment of, um, I guess, artistic bipolarism. Like you ever just meet someone that's like a painter that's like, I love feeling mad and I love feeling happy and I love it fuels me. And some arc fae, for instance, can actually change the area that they're in with their emotions. There's this guy, he's the Winter Prince, right? And the reason why he's the Winter Prince is because he lost his mom and his heart got grew cold, and because where he lives is now forever in winter. So these arc phase, and even the Lachey can manipulate the Feywild because they're so in tune with their emotions and the Feywild that their emotions reflect upon the area. So like, you might come and encounter and you've probably seen Ice Storm before, right? We just talked about Ice Storm with Ice Flensers. Now imagine if the whole dungeon becomes an ice storm because this person started getting cold in his heart.
So what I'm getting is I should bring a jacket and some sunglasses.
It may be a good time. Like maybe just putting a smile on someone's face will save your life here. Yeah, because the Feywild's crazy, and like I said, it mirrors the Prime Material world. Remember the part in Lord of the Rings where they had to wait for a specific star to shine on the secret dwarfen door?
Right.
Yeah. Well, that happens in the Feywild too, with the Prime Material because it mirrors it. Like, let's say there's a Dale, right? But in the Feywild, since time works weird, and because the arc phase emotions tied to it, maybe the Dale on that side is eternally in nighttime, but like a winter's night. So you actually have to wait for a winter night and the Dale in the Prime Material place for it to look exactly the same, and thus causing a portal to the Feywild. Sometimes it's something as simple as that, where you can just accidentally enter the realm of the Fey and then all of a sudden get a dance battle to death.
Better brush up on my dancing skills. They're pretty lousy.
Well, yeah,
Go spend some time in
we
Terminal Delirium.
well exactly. Terminal Delirium is a good example of it in the Eberron side. But if you also go to meet the Satyrs and the or Satyrs or Satyrs or however you want to pronounce them, and the not
Stormhorns.
Thunderholm, but Stormhorns. There's an optional where they ask you to dance. That's a good taste of what the Feywild's going to be like, where you dance and they're like, "You displease me," and they go like 0 to 100, and they're like, "Let's eat him because he made me mad."
Nice. Well, thanks for the preview and for the lore background. Should be sounds like it's gonna be a lot of fun, a lot of really interesting, different. I think is kind of the best part about it, right? Like it's not gonna really be a lot like what we already have in the game, which is always exciting.
Yeah, and it does. And their logic is it makes no sense. A lot of fun that makes no sense. That's a good way to describe.
I like a lot of fun. That's kind of what I'm playing a game for. All right,
Exactly.
so we're gonna close out the show here. Do you want to plug some stuff, man?
Yeah, you can find me sometimes at twitch.tv/Nimvind and also on YouTube, Nimvind Dirt Singer. Um, Also, don't forget High Lords of Malkir's teaching raids. You can see that in the DDO Sarlona forums. And I think that's about it.
Yeah, thanks for bringing that up. It hasn't.
Oh,
I haven't seen that plug much on the Chronicle and stuff this year.
yeah, I wonder why. Also, another thing is me and Voodoo are currently shooting our very popular Reaper Life series. We're doing season 4, so keep an eye out on that.
Yeah, I saw a trailer for that was out, I think, this week. So thanks for listening to the show. Thanks to Nimvind for joining me today and giving us a great lore perspective on the Feywild. And thanks to all the other contributors for DDOcast and to Standing Stone Games and Wizards of the Coast and to Cyber Ears for hosting the podcast. If you'd like to support the show, you can visit our website, DDOcast.com, or you can support us on Patreon. Again, right now I would really strongly recommend, we're doing fine. Donate to a food kitchen or a neighbor in need or something like that. Help each other out in this uncertain time. If you have a DDO-themed webpage or you Twitch DDO and like to be featured on our website, you can email us at ddocast@gmail.com. You can also hit us up at ddocast.com for our show notes, MP3s, our calendar, previous shows, and other fun stuff. And if you'd like to be a part of the show, or if you have a comment on this episode, a question you'd like to hear us answer, a topic you'd like to hear us discuss, or you just want to say hi, you can leave a comment or you can email us at ddocast@gmail.com. You can also find us for the latest cast updates and follow us on social media. At DDOcast on Twitter is the best place. We also have a Facebook page. But Twitter's the one that I do a little bit more with. So until next time, may all your attack rolls be crits, all your chest level appropriate, have fun, and don't forget to gather for buffs.